So what I found is that there are two major friction points when it comes to all relationships, particularly with Bachram. And that is, how do you give techacha, how do you critique, how do you tell them they're getting something wrong without them melting down or attacking, right? You have, people deal with anger in different ways. Some people will shut down, they'll melt down, they'll get defensive. Other times they'll just go for the throat. And it's sort of like you just wanted to point something out, obviously for the right reasons, and the typical approach doesn't work. So we're going to cover how to criticize the bacher who can't hear criticism. By the way, this also works in every relationship with your Rebbetzin kids, whomever it is, comes in handy. So I hear. And the other friction point in relationships with Bachram is when they come to you and they have something that they want to do. Hey, Rebbe, how come I can't do this? Or can I do this? How do you not do what they want to do and still keep the relationship solid, where they're not walking away, right? You didn't come to them with zachacha, they're coming to you. How do you say no to an inane request, which you have to say no to, without it injuring the relationship? Even more so, how do you fortify the relationship and still say no? So if we can accomplish both of these things in the next 30 minutes, I think we're off to at least a decent start. And then, time permitting, we'll go into some other things. Again, at any point, any questions, comments, thoughts, fire away. So, first things first, and that is when you have to criticize. Now, anyone in chinuch knows the traditional approach is, remember the old sandwich approach? Maybe they still do it, everything's based on the Oreo cookie, which isn't really dairy, which, and for your edification, you should know, right? We learned some very important things. So, you start with praise, and then you give your criticism, and very nice. That will work for some boys sometimes, and if it works, great, no problem. What's that?
Cream is the criticism?
The cream, I'm sorry, yeah, the cream is the criticism. Oh, that's nice alliteration. Right, the cream is the criticism, but unfortunately is, when you go to a bacher and you begin with the praise, they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Yeah, so sometimes it doesn't always work, and also, they can't hear criticism. They've been criticized their entire life, they got nothing right, and now, how are you going to establish a kesher, really hold this relationship solid? Now, by the way, even if what you're saying is fairly benign, they're going to get triggered. This is what my father said, this is what my mother said, this is what my other Rebbe said, this is what so-and-so said. You're just a long list of people, and you're someone on a long list of people who's just laying on the criticism. So, here is what I feel to be an optimal approach, and it works like this. First off is, you have to criticize, of course. I mean, it is, if Bachram know that if you look the other way too many times, it's because you don't care enough. Yeah, they know that. They know that. Now, part of them is no reasonable person wants to be criticized, right? So part of them knows it, but part of them doesn't want to hear it. So when you have to criticize, when you criticize them when they're doing something wrong, 3 negative things happen. Number 1 is they're upset with you. Number 2 is they're upset with themselves. Number 3, the most damaging, they are justifying all the reasons as to why it is what they did and why it's okay. And they're coming up with justifications and rationalizations, digging their heels in deeper. Because their ego, the Yetzer Hara, is not going to go down easy with this. They're saying, in their mind, they're thinking, or they're saying it to you, you don't understand, you don't know what's going on. The next opportunity, boom, that's exactly what's going to happen again. And they're behind the 8 ball because they're upset with themselves, so they got shame. Try moving forward from shame. And they're upset with you. They thought you were a good guy, and now you're beating them up. So, you need to get techacha, but when they mess up is the wrong time to do it. So, first, real life, if you can give me a current real life example, great. If not, I'll take a generic one. Anything that's going on now, yes, go ahead.
In the hallway,
yeah.
And a bacher who's in 11th grade is having a physical battle with a bacher in 9th grade, which I feel is demeaning and inappropriate.
No, sure. Okay.
I mean, not everyone would feel like that, so that's the example.
Okay, fine. Is it a one-off?
No, it's not the first time that he's
okay, fine.
He's acting immature with younger bacher.
Fine. Okay, just parenthetically, if they're one-offs and the bacher sees that you saw, there's what to be said for completely ignoring it. He knows, you know, wasn't his finest moment, mamish completely ignoring it. Yeah, not everyone wants to be called out on everything. We certainly don't, and not on our, on our lowest moments when you may act in a way you don't need to be called out on that, and they will appreciate the fact that you said nothing. Again, if it's a one-off, right? If it's not them, if it's just something that happened, they're just whatever, ignore it. Ignore. So now, what you want to do in a case like this, right, is if you see a pattern in this behavior, when the kid is doing what you want him to be doing, let's say you see this 11th grade walk by, and ninth graders, as whatever, it's stoltzy, this and that, but he just sort of walks by, ignores whatever the hawk is, this and that. Pull him over. Say, yeah, so and so, Chaim, do you have 2 seconds for me? 2 seconds for Rebbe? Yeah, of course, yeah. You don't sit there and you don't know where he's going. Maybe he's on his way somewhere. Respect, yeah? Of course, Rebbe, sure, great.
Respect, you mean the Rebbe showing respect?
Of course. How else do they learn respect unless
you're in step 2? It means B'Shas Ma'aseh, the fight is going on. You don't say
anything.
No.
No. Forget about the fight. I'll tell you what to do when the idea is to correct the behavior, which I said if it's a one-off.
But you have to stop without criticizing.
So right, you're on page 4. I'm still on page 1. So we're going to get there. Okay.
You went to the next time.
Now, I'm sorry. Forgive me. I'm going to show you how to deal with this pattern, with any pattern of behavior. If you're in the midst of it, we'll deal with what to do with that. But he's got an 11th grader who
did it yesterday
and may have done it the day before, and this is a pattern of behavior which you want to eliminate. Yeah. So you say, Chaim, do you have 2 seconds for me? Sure, of course. Whatever. Sit down and say, I'm so blown away by you. Now, what happened? Chaim walked by a 9th grader and didn't do nothing. Didn't push him, didn't do one of these things, didn't pound his chest, whatever. See, Chaim, I saw you walk by, a little picture of this, and now I won't be derogatory, I saw about that. And you completely mamish, went straight ahead, knowing that you're an older kid, and you held your head high. I am so impressed with you. Now, understand, 3 powerful things happen here. Number 1 is he's loving you. Number 2 is he's loving himself. Number 3 is you're giving him a self-concept to live up to. People act according to how they see themselves. When you call a kid a liar, a this, lazy, that, they're going to live up to those very low expectations. You tell a kid, wow, I can see you're somebody who's got whatever meter you want to bring out, incredible patience, self-control. You attach it to a particular meter and say, I just want you to know, I'm just blown away by that. Yeah, and then you talk a little about why it's so important to have that midah in life. Now, what happens? Let's take an example. Let's say now Lil Chaim, just a generic example of Lil Chaim's got his fingers caught in the cookie jar. Lil Chaim, you take a cookie, he's wiping the crumbs. No, I didn't. Again, you beat him up then, you tell, what are you doing? Don't you know the importance of being honest, this and that. He's upset with you, upset with himself, and now he thinks that you think that he's a thief and a liar, isn't that? You catch him doing something right. Lil Chaim, I saw you walk by the cookie jar. It could have been Yom Kippur. He could have been Fleshik. It doesn't make a difference. But Lil Chaim, I'm so proud of you. You didn't take a cookie, this and that. 3 powerful things. Again, loving you, loving himself. The most important thing here is children need a self-concept to live up to. Now, what's most fascinating is the self-concept is so easily shaped. You change. Lest you think that you're immune from this, let me give you a quick example. The time is going to chip away here, but quick example. Let's say Erev Shabbos, knock at your door 20 minutes before Shabbos. For whatever reason, your house is not flying all over the place like any typical, proper from house. The kids are calm. They're sitting there reading you something. The Rebbitzins in the kitchen. The house is clean, this and that. Your shirt's tucked in. You're not one of these things. And they remark, before they say, oh wow, Rabbi, I just want to let you know, it's 20 minutes before Shabbos. I came over, I wanted to ask you about the Erev, what is and that. I just can't believe how calm and chill things are in your house right before Shabbos. You say, thank you, this and that, fine. Next week, Erev Shabbos, knock at your door. Do you think you're going to be screaming at your kids? Do you think you're not going to take a moment to tuck your shirt in? Do you think you're going to open the door and say, hello, neighbor, how are you? Oh, sweetheart, get out of the microwave. No, honey. Okay, yeah, no, of course, yeah. How people see us changes how we see ourselves, and we're going to act consistently with that self-concept. So powerful. There's a great study, let me just tell you about it real fast, because it just brings home this idea about how a Bacher sees himself and how it changes their behavior. California researchers went to a neighborhood and they asked if they could put these big 3x5 foot signs that say drive safely in the front lawn. Again, 3x5 foot signs, California figured, I wouldn't say why not, but no. 17% of the people said okay. They went to a neighboring neighborhood with similar demographics, psychographics, filtered out as many factors as they can, and they asked, rather than these big, unsightly signs, if they could put these 2 by 3 inch stickers that said drive safely in the front window. Almost everyone says Moscow, sure, no problem. They went back 2 weeks later to the same homeowners who had the little stickers, and now asked if they could put these big signs in their front lawn. Yeah, 76% of the people said okay. Jumped from 17% to 76. What was the one difference? They saw themselves as people who obviously care about driver safety. Why else would I put this in the window? Why would I do this if it didn't matter? What you're doing is you're changing the way the Bacher looks at himself. When you want to call him out on something, please don't make the mistake of doing it in the moment. Nobody's going to move forward from being beaten up on. You catch them when they're doing what exactly it is that you want them to be doing, whatever the media is, whatever they're expressing. It doesn't have to be, again, it could be self-control. So self-control is not going to always manifest in the same way. It could be like, they serve lasagna. You know what? Chaim, you have 2 seconds. I know how much you love lasagna. I saw they brought out the food. You sat there like a mensch. And again, he could have been busy doing something else. He might have been fleisha. It doesn't make a difference for his motivation. It's the fact that you acknowledge his behavior and how it exhibits self-control. Make sense? So powerful. Okay. What to say, but let's just shift gears to when they come to you. Bacher comes to you and says, Rebbe, I want to get this device, or I want to go home for the Shabbos. There's whatever, this and this and that. So, we're talking about Bachurim who specifically feel dismissed. They feel invalidated. They don't feel valuable. They don't feel worthy. Why? Because we have the system that says that if you're a good learner, you're a good boy. I mean, people use the expression, forgive me, it just drives me nuts myself when they say, oh, he's a good boy. What do they mean by that? He learns well, which is great. You should. Top Bacher. Doesn't mean midos, doesn't mean he's a mensch, doesn't mean that he could. He's good with Harvard University, it's a fellow by the name of Howard Gardner, classifies 9 different types of intelligence. IQ is one of them. Gemara learning measures, it's valuable, it's important, necessary, it's all for good reasons. But if I grow up made to appreciate the benefits of learning Gemara, but I'm not at that level, I can't help but feel less good about me if the only value that's placed on me is because of my learning. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, if you think about it this way, is that half the kids, just basic statistics, are going to be in the bottom half of their class. How are they supposed to feel? Right? So, these kids just basically feel completely dismissed. They feel marginalized.
Is that true also in any university?
In any university. You want to hear... so
if you're not an A student, you're the same thing as us in Gemara, or is it stronger in our community?
Well, it depends on the value. In other words, if you're in Harvard, I mean, at least in the old days, academics were valued. So it doesn't matter, how good you are at anything else, then it doesn't matter.
Right.
So yeah, you're going to feel... I want to hear something fascinating study. Yeah. Research finds that how successful people are in life, and again, secular Zach, has nothing to do with the school they went to, meaning they could have gone to Buffalo Community College or Harvard University. The single most dominant factor in their success in life, in their profession, was where they graduated in their class, meaning that you graduate in the top 10% of Buffalo University or the top 10% of Harvard, you've got the same chance of being Matzliach. You graduate in the bottom 10% of Harvard, you've got less of a chance of being successful than if you graduate in the top 10%. It is where you are in that space where you fall, not where you go. Meaning then that if every kid here can feel like $1 million, like they're in the top of their class, they will be more Matzliach than the people who graduate in the bottom half of Harvard, or any other, Yeah.
I mean, it's not certainly possible to have all the kids being on the top level in their class.
Yes, you're right, of course.
Meaning they'll know.
By definition.
They'll
Yeah,
know that.
but here's the, of course, you're right, statistically, it is impossible to not have to have people in the bottom half. However, what metric are you using to measure their success? Meaning that, if there's a metric that allows for me, why do girls, look, girls have different outlets, from community, right? There's, dance and there's music and there's all this and that. We don't have as many, as some sports. I mean, I live in Lakewood, so it's maybe a little, a little more narrow in some respects. Again, it's not chas v'shalom an indictment of the system at all. Big fan of the system, love it, works, great. Doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody, right? So if the metric, like I saw, the work that these kids were doing, absolutely beautiful. So if the metric for some boys is artistic creativity, development, they're going to be in the top. If it's for others, it's for learning. For others, for drawing. For others, for work.
Suffers.
Yes. Or I'm trying to think. It shows you how handy I am. The people that build stuff. Carpenter. Thank you.
Davening.
Yeah. Right. Right. In other words, wherever they can be metzliach. Hashem created us all differently, which is a different conversation, different message. But to recognize that they're not supposed to be great at everything. You can't be. You're not supposed to be. And if you're great in one area, guess what? We know people who are brilliant in some areas, right? Not to, name people, Elon Musk, and that they can be complete, just have, a lack of clarity and understanding in other areas. The brain is malleable and it compensates and it grows, and we know people. They could be very smart, book smart. Street smarts, no. There's people who are smart kinesthetically with touch, people who are smart linguistically, people who are smart in different types of intelligences. If you take a kid, which is what they've been going through, and you try to shoehorn them into this shape that they're not, forget about can't go into, don't want to go in, not supposed to go into, of course they're not going to excel. So, they've been marginalized, they've been displaced, invalidated. So what happens? They come to Rebbe, who they finally have a kesher with, a relationship with. They say, hey, Rebbe, can I blah, blah, blah? And you're like, no, I'm sorry. Great, the policy and this and that with that. You've just invalidated them. Now you say you can't agree to everything they want. True. But the first thing you have to do is you have to give the bacher the time and attention that he deserves. Because when you tell him, and let's be reasonable, we don't always have the time and attention that you have. So when a bacher comes to you and says, Rebbe, I got to talk to you about something very, very important. What is that? Chaim, I can see how important this is to you. I can't give this the time and attention that you deserve right now. Would it be okay if we set up a time to speak? Yeah. Not that what I have going on is more important, I'm too busy, whatever is on your mind doesn't stack up to what's going on in my life. This is so important, I right now am limited myself to give you what you need. My limitation, not yours. Because you got to have the emotional bandwidth to sit down and have these conversations. You just know you do, right? In other words, and if you're not in this space, be smart. Chazal put fences around halacha, put fences around yourself. If you can't pick up the phone, if you can't engage a student because you have 1,000 other things going on, because you're human beings and it's okay, don't engage. And then just simply, let the child know, I can't, this and that. And then when you sit down, let him talk, let him talk, let him talk, let him talk. Here's the mistake we make. Child comes, they're worried about something. I'm anxious about this, that. The first thing we do is sometimes we try to minimize it. Yeah, you're making a big deal out of nothing. What you're telling them, by the way, is your feelings aren't true. You're not, forget about entitled to your thoughts and thinkings. How you feel isn't valid. There's an old saying in psychology that any child that can't express themselves to their mother won't be able to express themselves to an other. At some point, the kid just shuts down because, you know what? You imagine, by the way, taking a road trip with your spouse, and you're like, oh, okay, I need to stop at the next rest stop and go to the bathroom. She's like, no, you're good for another hour and a half. It's like, really? I really think I need to go to the bathroom. No, you're fine, but I had a big gulp. No, yeah, right? Notice, if a child is expressing how they feel, too often we invalidate. Now we think we're doing them a favor. Don't worry about it, it's going to be fine. But what you've just done is you cut the cord of connection. Yeah? You've just told them how they feel isn't valid. Worse, sometimes we'll blame the bacher. If you would have listened to me in the first place, you wouldn't have this problem. Oh, very nice. They're coming to connection, you tell them they're the problem. But parents do this. I mean, not me, you guys. Parents do this consistently. We think we're doing the kid a favor. Yeah, we're not. So what do you do then? If you're not going to say yes right away, which you shouldn't anyway, let the child talk, yeah? Or do something for the relationship. So, that connection consists of two intertwining phases. There's empathy and there's validation. Empathy first. Empathy is not sympathy. Empathy is your pain is my pain. Whatever it is they're expressing to you has to be etched on your face. Because when they're talking, you're not talking. You're not interrupting. You're nodding. All nonverbals. Maybe every once in a while, I see that, particularly obviously over the phone. Yeah, but in person you never interrupt. Never interrupt, never interrupt, never interrupt. All nonverbals. Empathy is your pain is my pain. Whatever they're feeling has to be consistent on your face. If they're talking about something painful, they're telling you a joke, yeah, edge of your seat. One of the things, by the way, I guess everyone's entitled to their pet peeves, but when a child comes to tell you a joke, and sometimes the person will say, oh yeah. But the child is coming to make you feel good. And sometimes a parent, an adult, a Rebbe, whatever, they'll just shut that down and say, they'll tell the kid the punchline. You've just deflated their opportunity for connection. We do it in seemingly ways that don't seem like a big deal, but why did the kid come to you to tell you a joke? Because he wants to show you he knows something that you don't know. He wants to make you feel good through a connection, and you're just taking the scissors and going, boom. Yeah, so you want to, sympathy is, stinks to be you, wow, tough matzav. Empathy is, so you want to make sure your nonverbals are consistent. What do good nonverbals look like when a bacher is talking to you? Because they're picking up on this. What they don't look like is this. Now I know everyone with their arms crossed has this decision what to do. Because as soon as I say this, they're like, well, Lieberman said this, no, I'm not gonna, well, I can't do this. Yeah, what happens when you're talking to somebody? It could be a Rebbitzin, could be a bacher, could be your kid, and they do this. How do you feel? Yeah. Maybe their arms are comfortable, maybe it's cold. Instantly it sends a subconscious message of being defensive, maybe argumentative. Yeah, really? A little oppositional, are we? Okay. No, it's cold, right. Again, consciously there are reasons we do it. Subconsciously, you have a conversation with a bacher, by the way, and this is a closing window.
No, that's fine.
Okay. Then they do this. Again, you want to make sure your posture is open and you are nodding along. Kiss of death is answering the phone, answering the door. How do you think Chaim is going to feel when you're talking to him, Rebbe, I'm sorry, I'm talking to Reb Chaim right now, I'm sorry, so-and-so, whatever it is has to wait. But no, Rebbe, it has to wait. You don't say, let me just see if it's important, because what are you really saying? Let me see if it's more important than you. Yeah? You don't pick up the phone to see who it is. You don't never look at your watch. Yes, go ahead, please.
What about, is it quick? Because I'm in a long conversation. Is that allowed? I do that all the time. Because if it's 5 seconds, take care of it, not to be sitting by the window for the next hour.
No problem. Let me politely ask you a question. Let's say you're pouring your heart out to somebody, and there's a knock at the door, and the person says they need to talk to this person you're talking to, and that person either says, go away please, whatever it is has to wait, or if it's quick, okay. Which would you prefer?
Because I'll tell you why. Because when there's somebody waiting, they feel like they're not getting, that they're rushed. If nobody's by the door banging and waiting, the line, they feel more relief.
I hear that. You can't control how someone feels. What you can do is reassure them and say, I say this to people, they come, they say, I want to get this out. They say, we're not under any time pressure. It's okay. Take your time. Reassure the person of that. By the way, if they rush, that's okay. The onus is on them if they choose to rush. Your job is to make sure that they feel heard and validated. That comes from dismissing everything around them. Yeah? If they choose to rush up the story, then that's okay. That's okay. It'll save you. Okay. But again, when you say, and how many times are you going to have quick conversations for this kid? Because here's what happens. The minute you break connection with this kid, it's not like you've got to start over. You're done. You're done. Clearly, he's not important to you if you're going to stop in the middle and answer somebody else's question. Or even more so, ask how important or how much time it's going to take. What message are you sending, really?
So it equally would be, if a Rebbe or anybody was speaking to another Bacher, for another Rebbe to come and interrupt, that
Right.
is equally showing that.
It can be, but so what I say, when you've got to do that, and it's a different power. I'm sorry if I say. Go ahead.
No.
Yeah.
I'm getting ready to shoot. That's all.
But again, but again, I certainly appreciate being busy and people knocking on the door. And I got news for you: it's not the end of the world if they're one-offs. But when you have a bacher who you're trying to establish, and you're going to end up saying no to him, here's the thing. A person doesn't mind. There's all saying in sales, people don't care what you know till they know that you care. So they don't mind you saying no. What they care is you not listening and understanding where they're coming from. Yeah, if you understood, the only reason you would have to say no is if you need to, not because you don't know where they're coming from. So it just sends a very powerful message, like what you're telling me and there's nothing more important right now. It just, Greta, sometimes you can even have it where your phone will purposely go off and you do this in a conversation with somebody, you don't just do one of these things, and I am in the habit of not answering my phone if I'm in a conversation with somebody. It's just, forget about just basic Menschlichkeit, what you're saying is, everything else is not as important as you are to me right now. That's a very powerful message for anyone, particularly someone who doesn't feel valid, doesn't feel.
So this is only when they come to you.
Only when they come to you.
Scenario, the bacher knocks on your door.
Yeah.
If a bacher after midday calls somebody over and you say, just 1 second, let me ask him something, that's not a problem.
I don't think so. Again, no, this is when somebody's coming to you. They're coming to you for something, yeah. So to answer your question, by the way, what you can do is, again, you're modeling behavior. So do you want them to walk over to two Rebbe speaking or to a Rebbe and this and that? So what you can do sometimes is stand a little bit, 90 degree, and just, they will, hopefully if they have, some awareness, they will see Rebbe standing there, and they'll say, the Rebbe wants something. You say, forgive me for interrupting. I'm sorry for interrupting this and that. That's it. To walk over, unless it's pekuach nefesh, I'm not so sure. Again, you have to do what you have to do. Things go on. I get that in real life. But if you can avoid it, what you're really saying is, you're modeling something tremendous for them. That if a Rebbe's not going to interrupt two Bachrim, then clearly a Bachur's not going to go over to a Rebbe and a Rebbe speaking and just,
I'm talking about even if a Rebbe speaking to a Bacher.
Yeah.
So, first Rebbe speaking to a Bacher, and the second Rebbe wants to speak to that Rebbe. Best is not to walk. And I'm saying when he walks into the room, it's also.
Again, it's one of those things you have to know your customer. If you've got a kid who, some kids are more resilient, they don't care, listen to Rebbe walking, you go, you'd probably this and that. Others will be like, oh, there goes my conversation, right? They're thinking, yeah.
But no, that's only, you don't know if the Rebbe called the boy over or he went over to the Rebbe. The Rebbe called over the boy, and then the Rebbe interrupted. Right. That's not what he's saying. But the problem is that there are things, you're saying it's all or nothing.
What?
That means if I'm speaking to a Bacher, and he has to tell me something, the way it happens is very important, he has to tell me something. You gotta tell it to me. Never?
I live in the real world.
There are different demographics. We're not talking about, there are things that are talking more important than your question if I can leave 20 minutes early to the Mashals. That's for sure.
No, yes. I'm speaking about, again, when you have a child, a Bacher that comes to you, and you want to make sure that this Bacher does not feel invalidated, doesn't feel hurt, doesn't feel like you're injuring the relationship. Yeah, if even just doing this 1 out of 10 times, I'm saying when you do it, it should be all or none. It doesn't have to be every time in every conversation. It's also depending on the relationship you have. There's some relationship you have that are so super fragile. Maybe a new kid comes
right.
that
was very important. I'm sorry, let's go back to where we were, right?
Yes, I don't consider it certainly not the end of the world category. Are you able to like do these things with kids here? I know it's iffy, gray, yeah. So look, you can't hit, you can't hug. You took out 2 of the best weapons that Rebbeim have. I like to, when I'm talking to somebody, obviously it's appropriate. If somebody comes over, I still want to keep this connection. So I'll be like, yeah. In other words, I'm now got my hand on your shoulder, so we're still connected, and now I'm going ahead and I'm talking to this person. So I haven't really broken connection. I don't know what you're able to, yes.
I came in late, so forgive me, but does this only apply between interpersonal conversations? What if I'm working on something? So for example, my office, if you want to call it that, is a desk in the hallway. Right. That's where I am.
Yeah.
I may be working on something very important. Yeah. Boy comes over, I want this, I need that. That's great. But not right now.
Great.
Where's the chinuch in that what you may want is not a need, and what I need is an actual, what I'm doing is an actual need.
Beautiful. So first off, you're 100% right. If you've got a desk that's out in the hallway, there need to be complete boundaries. It needs to be, a glass wall that it's as if you weren't there, they can't see you and so on. There need to be hours where you are accessible to them. And I would say, by the way, see, here's the thing. People, Bachurim, anyone, gets offended only for one reason, when they take something personal. Yeah? You don't take it personal, I'm not getting offended. Right? You scream at me, I may get offended. You scream at an audience of people that I'm in the audience, I have really low self-esteem in order for me to take that personally. So, if you've got a sign up, which I would encourage you to do, saying, here are the rules by so-and-so. Please do not approach the desk. Please do not say, I've got a quick question. Get all the objections ahead of time. When the Bachur comes over, all you need to do is politely say, you know what? Rules, we're both bound by rules. You know what? I got to follow the rules, you got to follow this. Be polite, be nice. If you have a pattern behavior, then we can go ahead and do what we spoke to about giving criticism. I don't think that a Bachur should have unfettered access to anyone at any time, particularly if you're in sight. Okay? Yeah.
How would you apply this in class? I've always asked you a question.
Yeah.
And while you're responding, you see you have to take care of something else. You also can't interrupt.
What do you mean you taking care of something else?
You see someone else is doing something on the other side of the classroom, throwing your paper airplanes. I don't know, something you have to interrupt.
Right. So like this, not in the world category, certainly. I would say from a chinuch standpoint, I would ignore that paper airplane and focus, because what are you doing? You're telling the class that whoever is acting like a mensch gets Rebbe's time and attention. Whoever is acting like not a mensch doesn't get it. When you move your attention from the kid who's doing what's right to the kid who's doing what's wrong, what message are you giving over? Pretty much is act up and I'll give you exactly what you want. Why is the kid throwing the paper airplane to get your attention? Because he wants your attention. So, right? So why? By the way, people will notice, the Bachur will notice, wow, Rebbe's got to see that airplane fly by, ignoring it because he's focused on the Bachur. You will make that boy feel great, and you will be sending a very powerful message to the class that whoever engages like a mensch is going to get Rebbe's time and attention.
They also see that Rebbe speaks to someone else, it's free time for everyone else. Like an example, when Shiva says Kaddish, all of a sudden the boys in the back, oh, it's free time, Shiva's not watching us.
Right, so I call this my falling off the cliff scenario. You can't. You would do best to deal with that problem ahead of time, meaning that you'll let the class know, and now we go into a different area here, which I don't know how much time we have, but in terms of classroom management, right? Classroom management is not about putting out fires one by one, it's about having rules that everyone adheres to from the get-go. So whoever is misbehaving is going outside the rules. This is not the way of doing things. Obviously, when Rebbe's answering a question for a Bachur, everyone should be listening in rapt attention. Whoever's not isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing. So you have a classroom management issue. I get it's a tough class. I get that, but I don't think you just solve the problem by putting out the small fires, this vandalism, when you've got somebody who's actually following the rules and order and doing what they're supposed to be doing. Okay? But again, you have a classroom management is very, very important. Very important. Okay, yeah. Sorry, question?
No, we want to shift a little more to classroom management also.
Okay.
So what happens when it happens?
Okay. So
Your question, what happens when it happens? During the class.
What he's saying is that she's saying it's okay to divert a little bit to the
Okay.
class management, dealing with these things in the past also. So.
okay, sure. With your permission, can I just cap out the validation key?
Sure.
Okay, sure. Okay, no problem. Thank you. So the Bachur comes to you and they have an issue about something, this and that. You want to make sure, again, the first stage is empathy, and the second is validation. Validation has nothing to do with right and wrong. Validation has nothing to do with the facts. Validation doesn't have anything to do with whether they are saying emes or not. Validation only means the following thing. Based on your perspective, I understand why this bothers you. Based on your perspective, I understand why you want this. However they're seeing the world, you're giving it an askama that it's okay to feel that way. So powerful. Because what happens is this: as long as you're arguing with the Bachur over the mitzias, the reality, how they're seeing something, they're going to be digging their heels in deeper. They will never see from your perspective while they're locked in their own. How are you going to get them to put on your glasses while they're still wearing theirs? That's not possible. They've got to take off their glasses. What are those glasses? Their way of seeing the world. How do you get them to take them off? By acknowledging that how they're seeing the world is okay. You may see it differently, but what a beautiful thing to learn in relationships. It's people see things differently. It's okay, and it's not about right and wrong. Small child comes back and says, you know what, Mora hates me. Rebbe took my lunch. You don't say, your Mora doesn't hate you. How could your Rebbe take your lunch? Yeah, I would think, if my Mora yelled at me, I might think she hates me also. Or if I didn't get called on, after I raised my hand a couple of times, I also might think that. Yeah? In other words, you're not telling the child that they're right or wrong. You're telling the child that how they see the world based on their perspective, it's okay.
It's okay. We should tell them that you're Rebbe. Give them the impression.
It's okay to feel it then.
No, you're not. Give me a real life example. I'm sorry. Let me do a better job of clarifying what I mean.
Obviously, if a kid comes to you, I'm not talking about somebody. The Baruch says, my Rebbe hates me.
Right.
We want to let them know that the Rebbe doesn't hate them, don't we?
Of course. Now, here. But that book comes to you and says, Rebbe hates me. You say, Rebbe doesn't hate you. Rebbe hates me. Where are you going?
Get it across?
Well, right. You're getting nowhere fast with that. Right. So, how do you get past that? Number one is, again, you want connection. Number one is empathy. They're telling you, Rebbe hates me. What makes you think that? Ask a question. Well, this, you're listening, you're not going poo-poo, all this, you don't know him, all you're doing, invalidating. Rather, listening, this and this and that. And then whatever it is, they're going to come to is that because, he never lets me finish my snack, never lets me do this and that. Empathy. Their feelings are paced, that pain is on your face, validation is, I can see why Rebbe takes your lunch, why you would find that very upsetting.
But there's got to be the but.
Of course, yeah, but again, as you well know, that but has to be well placed, right? So as soon as you validate their experience, their shield is going to drop. I don't have to convince Rebbe anymore. I don't think that I'm sane. That how far do people go to be validated? It's nuts. That I'm saying he gets me. My shield drops, and here's where you offer an alternate perspective. And that's the third part, and that is that I'm wondering if it's possible. Here's where you float it. If, and then you talk about Rebbe had maybe told you a couple of times to put that away, or if Rebbe did this and that. Again, if you go in, when they go in, you clash. Empathy, validation, and then you float an alternate perspective. I'm wondering if it's possible, and say, yeah, maybe this, maybe whatever it is. I'm just saying, I got news for you, it doesn't matter. What does matter is that they know that they've been heard. You want to hear fascinating. There's an organization called From Divorce, right? Self-describe what it is. It's a great organization. They have Shabbatons twice a year, which I discussed speaking at. I asked the same question at every Shabbaton. I said, how many of you would be married today? It's about 300-400, divorced from people. If your spouse was still crazy, your spouse still had all those issues, this, and that, but they just did this one single thing. I'll tell you what that thing is. There's this one thing. How many would still be married today? 75% of the hands go up. What is this one thing? That when you were married, when you went to your spouse with an issue, something that was bothering you, they empathized with you, they validated, but get this, still didn't do what you wanted. So I say, we don't argue over stuff. Kid comes to you and says, can I have this? Can I get this? And you go, fine, go ahead. But you've done zero for the relationship. But if you hear the Bachar, empathize, validate, and then when he knows that you know his pain, the only reason you're saying no is because you can't, then you go ahead and say no if you need to say no. Sometimes you'd be surprised, by the way. They'll make a very good case. Yeah? They'll make a good case, in which case, okay, fine, be flexible and so on. Okay. So then with the Rosh Hashiva's permission, then we'll just make that as the point, and we'll just switch into classroom management for a few minutes, okay? Okay. Is there anything not clear? Anything else you want to cover on this point? Okay. Good? Okay. So, what is classroom management? Classroom management is the ability to be able to maintain control over the class. Now, how do you know when you've got control over the class, and how do you know when you've lost control over the class? What's the single biggest barometer or litmus test? Other than paper airplanes, other than this and that. Okay, it's like this. How does a policeman stop traffic? How does a judge stop an attorney from speaking? How does a parent get a kid off the couch? What means do they use? How does a cop stop traffic? Is he going, guys, let's go, come on, guys, or How does a judge stop? How does a parent who you know has control over the kid get the kid off the couch? Just looking, forget about that thing. You'll look at me, look, in one generation we went from being scared of our parents to scared of our kids. So, you know, we're a little behind the eight ball. But yeah, no doubt this is still very effective. You know, it's sort of like, you know, but a stern look, you know, at least in some generations that would be enough to have the kid, yeah. The less you say, the more control you have. I at some point had done it more, and every once in a while I give talks on public speaking. I had to be effective public speaking. And one of the things I give over is you never shush your own crowd. And when it comes to classroom management, as soon as you begin to shush your class, you've lost your class. As soon as you begin to scream over your class, you've lost your class. Because when you scream louder than the kid, what are you really saying? We're fighting for control. Yeah, you, me, yeah, it's not that. When you go shush, 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 who's in control, them or you? Yeah. I tell when my kids are starting to drive, I say you had a 4-way intersection. Yeah, I said, who's got control there? You arrive at the intersection at the same time. If you wave that car on, are you in control? Or if you just decide to go, are you in control? Who's got more control there? Yeah. You tell someone else how they should be behaving, you're in control. When you're shushing the crowd, they're telling you that they're in control. So, first off is do not engage at their level. Aleph-based classroom management is when you want to, first off, you know, and again, it deserves more time and attention than we can give it right now, but when you walk into the class, ideally, obviously the Bacham should just shoot right to their seats. And this is something that's inculcated from the beginning. In other words, this is something that's simply just done. It's not a question of, you know, can they or should they or do they. It happens. When you're ready to speak, you begin speaking softly. The Bachram who want to listen will do the job for you of shushing the Bachram who are not listening. Whoever is going to want to hear what you have to say, and you know, you got to be interesting, and say, like, yeah, there's only so much you can do. But if what you're giving over is something that they're excited about, something interesting, something that, you know, they'll get, you know, a prize for, whatever it is, you begin speaking, let the class shush each other. Now, going back to the scenario when you've got someone who's misbehaving. First off is you got to cut it off at the pass. As soon as the paper airplane flies, you're behind the 8 ball. So then, what you want to do is, following pretty much the protocol before here, whenever Lil Chaim could have a cast on his arm and couldn't fly his paper airplane. Doesn't make a difference. You're going to pull Lil Chaim out before the paper airplanes start. You're not going to give a chacha, why you're flying airplanes, Rebbe's trying to teach this. You're beating the kid up, beating him up. It's only enough. Yeah? And again, you have to, I get that. Let's live in the real world. But better to call Lil Chaim out on a day, obviously he can't be completely absent, but you know, if he's there. So Lil Chaim, you're a schmuck boy, you know, you had so much, and be genuine, spend some time thinking about his milas and his strengths, this and that. Say, by the way, you know what? I don't have the easiest job here. I love my job, this and that, this and that. I noticed today, you know, sometimes you have a little, you know, spilkas, you get, let's say, but you didn't fly the paper airplanes. I want you to know, Rebbe appreciates that. The kid is going to smile from ear to ear. He finally got something right. All the kid's been beaten up on his entire life, and now Rebbe, by the way, and not in a way that's like, well, look who finally decided to act like, no, honest, authentic. Chaim, by the way, I have a heart, this and that, and I just, you know, and if, you know, I really, not, you promise me you'll never do it again, it's that, just in and of itself, there's no agreement, there's no vow, there's this and that, just little Chaim gotta win. Do you think he's gonna have a harder time making a paper airplane fly? Now, maybe he will, maybe he won't. But I gotta tell you, he's not gonna do it the same geschmack. Yeah, make sense? Okay. What other real issues come up in class?
Well, part of classroom management also is clarity of structure and protocols and expectations, plus the confidence of the Rebbe to know that you're going to do it, and then the Rebbe can turn away with the full expectation that it's going to get done.
Right. Yes. So I just have something quick to say on what I think I understood you say, and then please expand on it. When it comes to expectations, if the class thinks that you think that they're going to misbehave, you're going to get exactly what you expect. If you do one of these things and go, I'm going out, if there's any, you're lost. You're done. If they think there's any hesitation, any qualms, that they're going to follow your orders to a T, you're done. They have to believe that you expect total and complete cooperation. That's just one. But I'm sorry, so now please answer the question.
No, that for sure 100%, that was the second part. And the first part was the clarity of, this is clarity coming from modeling, or coming from both modeling as well as concrete expectations that are posted, or however you do it, however you start the year and then reinforce that. But the clarity of, this is what the shiurim is, this is my expectation, and obviously there's nothing going to be below that, which
Good.
is the second part
Fine.
for the first part, the clarity
Yes.
of it.
Fine. Clarity. First off, clarity should be always in the positive, meaning no talking, rather it's quiet when Rebbe is speaking. Avoid the negative. Two is they should be posted. They should be posted so everyone can see them, and when there's a violation, you don't have to speak, because the less you say, the more in control you are. It's simply, and you go back. Again, you are in control, and you don't want to cede an inch of that control. Doesn't mean you're not flexible, doesn't mean you don't joke, doesn't mean this and that, but make no mistake, there's a dynamic here that cannot be corrupted for anything, not because a Rebbe needs power, needs control. It's not good for the Bachar to feel that he's got that much power. It's not good for him. It doesn't make him feel secure to think that he has this much sway over, which is why you can never, ever, ever show a Bachar that they got under your skin. Ever. You can be disappointed and say, that's beneath you, or that's hoping for better behavior. But to get visibly upset, you've just given little Chaim way too much control. Yeah, okay. The rules should be stated in the positive, and they should be where they are clearly observable. Anyone who you think is going to have an issue with any of these rules, try to, it's sort of like that, there's a great Yiddish expression for it, which I don't remember, but it is, a leaky boat pretty much sinks everyone on board. You probably heard of it, it's been given to me a lot. That one, it acts as like an infection. So you want to nip these things so it doesn't spread. Those I think are two of the fundamentals you laid out, and it also can't be a laundry list of five. It can't read like the IRS tax code. A couple of fundamentals, 4 or 5. The yesod of the foundation of how to operate, again, stay in the positive and written down.
What about out of the classroom? Out of the classroom, the lunchroom, a different class, a different Bachar. Could Rebbe from 10th grade empty out the lunchroom for 11th, 9th, 12th as well, or? How does that Rebbe give that?
What she's asking is, it's, let's say after breakfast, and Rebbe comes up, they forgot that the bell means time to go down. So Rebbe comes up to first of all, should Rebbe come up to get his class? And then B, when Rebbe does come up to get his class, how does he make sure that the other kids that, from the other kids, they're also going down? Okay,
so I think I understood your question. Tell me if I don't. First off, I'll tell you my opinion. I don't know. I don't know. I'll tell you what I think. I don't think the Rebbe should be going up to get his class, the entire class, who's sitting there eating. Somebody at some point had to have noticed the bell rang and lunch, the big 5-minute lunch here, was over. Someone had to have realized that. Now, you're going to be there. And again, I think that it is, now moving from what I think to what I know, is that it has to be where the Bachar is incentivized from the minute the class starts, and they're going to miss out, they're going to lose something if they're not there. If only their integrity, meaning if the Bachar says, I'm going to be on time, you to develop a sense of honesty and integrity to be able to follow through on your word. It's a different conversation, but also something very important. I'm not so sure. Again, I don't think that the Rebbe should go up. It's a little demeaning, and I don't think it fits within the power struggle to gather the troops. Yeah.
True, but you're building from the boys. Why doesn't the Rebbe have that authority? Why don't they have that respect, that cover that we had to our Rebbe?
It's a very good question. So I think there's a natural decay of what becomes acceptable. Make no mistake, you take any one of these Bachrim, put them into a yeshiva where everyone toes the line, they will toe the line, there's no question. You reach a point where you've got the tipping point where enough people are doing what they shouldn't be doing and suddenly it spreads, which is why you want to live this. So, most people here are following the leader, and that leader is only doing what he's getting away with and has been able to get away with. So, if laying down a new law is perfectly legitimate as long as there's a structure to it, there's awareness of it, and a consequence to it. But just something before I think is very, very important. Anything you can do with humor, do with humor. Yeah. In other words, it doesn't have to be. You don't have to take a tone that's dour just because the child's not listening to you. Because also just in terms of modeling, in other words, if you go over to Lil Chaim, and you need to go over to Chaim, who's still eating his lunch or still this and that, and do it with humor, without obviously, getting not to crass this and that, a joke. And again, if you're able to say, I've never met someone who can eat more slowly. In this, you've gotten the message. You've given him the message. You haven't say, how come you're not in my class, this and that. That's just it. By the way, all these Bachrim wants is a connection. They want a connection, a healthy connection. So when they're doing what they're not supposed to be doing, and you go over, and by the way, once again, in classroom management, by the way, if you're able to, Bacher is just not doing with this and that, you're talking this and that, and just, that's it. That's it. That's all they want. Yeah? And you go back to it, they are screaming at various levels of awareness, somebody please listen to me. Somebody pay attention to me. Yeah.
I think that, maybe I misunderstood Roshu's question, but here, I think you're like, it's step 2 and miss step 1. That if a Rebbe, any Rebbe holds, I'm a Rebbe in the school.
Yeah.
And therefore, I have the shlita to tell any bacher to do anything at any time I want.
Yeah.
Because I'm a Rebbe in the school,
right.
Then you're not going to refrain from doing so. So here, like Roshu says, if I'm Rabbi Granik and I'm the 10th grade Rebbe, that doesn't mean that I can't go to a 12th grade bacher and say, it's time to do this. We're doing this now. Or whatever it may be.
Let's say I'm in the Bismedrish. Let's say on any bacher not in my shir should please leave. It's not officially a rule. It's just I decided. I get emotional.
Right.
I'm just saying a real life situation. I say I'm out in the Bismedrish. If you're not on my shir, please leave.
And it doesn't work, right?
To me,
the shows why can't. Right.
But again, but once again, if a person has, maybe again we call how to define the word differently. But if a person has the stolz and the feeling of self-worth that I'm a Rebbe in the school, and therefore that position, not me myself, but the position that I hold entitles me to therefore give this directive, then you have to listen to it. And if you really believe that about yourself, then the kid shall sue. If you don't really believe that about yourself, and it's like, I'm not sure I should be saying this to you, I'm not really ready, but if you don't have that sense of issues, forget it. They're not gonna listen. If when I teach 6th grade, right? If I'm on hallway duty,
principal, by the way.
if I see Rabbi Miller's kid running down the hallway of our town, and I say, boys, I don't care that you're in 1st grade and you're not in my class. I'm a Rebbe in the school. If I say, boys, and they're going to stop running. Because I'm a Rebbe in the school. Not because I'm Stu Whack, because I'm a Rebbe in the school.
Right.
You have the stolz about it.
It's a little more complex with older Bachram, like Shiraz, if he's a 12th grader or whatever, but still, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, but you have to
believe it and say it as a full expectation. Got you.
I have to also agree that certainly that if you don't believe it, they're not going to believe it. So you have to believe it, and they should listen. But the thorny question is, what happens when they don't? In other words, it's let's assume that of course they should rightly respect the authority, any authority that's in the school. But if they choose not to, again, now you have a problem, and again, it's your problem, it's not their problem. You have a problem. So either you could say that you didn't convey enough authority, but I might suggest that what you really want to do is you establish a relationship. Yeah, in other words, if a bacher is not going to responsibly listen because it's the right thing to do, right? Then again, I'm drifting into opinion land here. So you know what I'm saying, you know this area much better than I do because you're dealing with the day in and day out this matzav here. But I'd say like if you go over to a kid who doesn't belong where he belongs, what's wrong with going over and saying, if you don't know his name, do you know the name of all the bachrim at different ages here? Different?
Yeah.
Yeah. Say God, you're so and so. Shalom aleichem. You know, I know who you are. I know your brother. This and that. You go over. I mean, is there anything wrong with? Again, I'm drifting into my bit. Talk to the bacher. You know, establish a kesher for 10 seconds. Is that okay? Fine. You know what? Only my guys are in this year. I'm sure somebody's missing you somewhere. Pat them on their way, and they're not going to say no to that. Yeah. Yeah. Do you agree, disagree, or I'm not sure?
I have this. I mean, I don't think it's black and white, agree or disagree. The issue is that when there's a situation that a kasher is not built in 10 seconds. A kasher is that there is an idea in an Indian that I'm a rebbe in this school, and therefore this gives me the right and responsibility to say this to you or not. That's number one. Number two, if the child doesn't sue, then there is someone who does have a relationship with them.
Sure.
And then you pass that off. I mean, I'm co-rebbeing with Rabbi Rifkin. He's far more talented than I am, which is an understatement of the year. But the reality is, if a boy in I'm on recess duty and Rabbi Rifkin's not, and a boy in Rabbi Rifkin's class is acting inappropriately, I may go over to the boy and say, that's not going to happen now. But then I'll go to Rabbi Rifkin and say, I had to deal with this boy in your class who's doing this in the gym. And Rabbi Rifkin, Rabbi Leibach told me this happened. And Rabbi Rifkin will be makshi what I say to the nth degree because he's Rabbi Leibach's Rebbe in school. And we've done this for 10 years together, and it works beautifully.
Okay.
Because the reality is, if a boy's not going to listen if Rabbi Grossman doesn't have a relationship with a boy in Rabbi Granick's shir because he's never seen Rabbi Grossman before, he doesn't have a relationship. But if Rabbi Grossman says something, you know what? I'm going to make Rabbi Osman or Rabbi Elvin work. And they have that relationship, and they're going to deal with that piece of it. Say, I understand. Rabbi Grossman told you to leave this medrash? He didn't? How could it be in a yeshiva like Sharadim that a Rebbe said, you didn't hear Rebbe, you didn't listen to Rebbe? I'm not clear on how that could be. And Rabbi Osman or Rabbi Elvin already have that predicated relationship. Mm-hmm. So you pass off the situation to the person who has the relationship, is my feeling.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong. You do agree, disagree?
Right. So I hear what you're saying. It makes a lot of sense.
Thank you for that.
You're validating.
Thank you for validating. You agree or disagree?
Right. So I would say like this: is that you're right. It takes a while to establish a relationship, but it takes only seconds to establish a connection, and that is all you need. In other words, if the bacher's not going to move out of awe or fear, he has to move because he likes you. And it's amazing how quickly we can get people to like or dislike us simply from a smile, a nod, a touch, a connection. That 10-second, you are so-and-so. Oh, you live on so-and-so, this and that. Oh, I remember this and that. Oh, we gotta go weiter. That's it.
I think you just said something so critical. It's the difference between relationship and connection. Connection can happen in seconds.
But anything out of the dining room of 20 bacher, you start making connections like that. I'm not gonna do that. Right? That's where you need a little bit of rhythm, I suggest.
Yeah, but the rabbi he's 100. It is pashut that a child, a bacher, should respect the authority. Again, I am completely
so how do
dismayed.
We give over that? How do we convey that?
Right. So
what is the power band?
What can we do to give off those vibes?
You drip with it.
Right.
You do exactly who you are. You drip when you walk down the hall, Mordechai. The splits kriyas yamsuf. You drip with who you are. That's it. Rabbi Osman no different. If you don't drip with it, then they're
I
not
have no
gonna.
problem.
I know you have the problem, but every single one of us can become you. Everyone
for some tips on how we can.
Can I ask you a question? Sure. Do the Bachram know that you really genuinely care about them?
Me?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. That, Rabbi, is why you have the authority. It's not the other way around. We listen to people who we like, trust, and respect.
So So how does a 10th grade Rebbe give it over to 11th grade? 12th grade?
Nobody wants to disappoint someone who cares about them.
Right, so how does a different Rebbe know that that Rebbe cares about me, knows about me?
He doesn't, which is why you can't, as you aptly say, you can't establish a healthy connection, a relationship in 10 minutes. A connection is all that they want. They are
So every Rebbe should work on connecting with all the Bachars.
No.
Then he'll be able to enter the
What I'm saying is that connection, if you want cooperation from a specific Bacher with any circumstance, rather than simply telling the kid for the upteen time or yelling, oh, don't you have someplace else to be, this or this and that, just go 2 seconds, say, just connect. Either what you're wearing, where'd you get that, sure, this and that.
And when you build up enough of that, then when they come to lunch, the bell rang 5 minutes ago,
then they go.
They should all go.
There's no reasonable person that wants to disappoint somebody, again, who cares about them. They don't. If they feel like I'm marginalized, like I'm not, I don't care about disappointing you.
I know a lot of Bachram that I think this is a longer conversation. They know I care about them and they disappoint me all the time. Because they're depressed, they're angry.
They're hurt, their baggage, their background.
So it's like this. You're right. That's an oversimplification. They don't want to disappoint you if they know you care about them. The problem is they don't care about them. So that's you have a different level issue here because you're trying to move an immovable object. So for something like that,
Thank you. Make me feel better. I feel validated.
Yeah, sure. Once again, it deserves more time and attention, which I know we're into.
Yeah.
You can push the clock a little bit, it's fine. We're all here. No one's talking without us.
The very best thing you can do, a question I get a lot, by the way, is how can I help somebody who doesn't want to help themselves? Now, when someone's in an addiction or they're in a spiral and they're depressed and they're in that space. So what happens is this. Ultimately, the only way to get this Bacher to feel better about themselves, it's not going to come from chizuk, it's not going to come from motivation, it's not going to come from anything. They have to make different quality choices. There's no way to get around that model. If I behave in a way that's irresponsible, I feel shame, I don't feel good about me, I'm going to feel stuck. And that's when people get at any age sort of, hardened in a shell and they don't feel alive. And it doesn't matter how much you try and push, it's a rock up a hill. So your job is to establish that relationship where they know that you genuinely, honestly, truly care about them. I had the schus of living 2 blocks from Rabbi David Trank. You know the great Rabbi Trank? So I used to go to his yeshiva and talk to the boys, and he was a tremendous man. I mean, he had a relationship with these boys, and I got to tell you, it's all about the relationship. When they know that you truly, honestly, genuinely care about them, not because they did a mitzvah, not because they davened, not because they wore their hat, not because they did this, only for them, period, they'll begin to feel that there's some value to them. And then, slowly, it is slow, you want to encourage them to make choices to help them to feel like they're investing in themselves. And that's how you begin to move them forward. But, it's a long apart. I could tell you a great story, but for another day with Rabbi Trank. And
The only problem is if you have enough boys who don't love themselves, then you're creating an atmosphere. They created an atmosphere of being
normalized.
Now it's normalized not to listen.
Yeah.
We are.
Yeah. True.
But the Rabbi Trank model, you hold that should be our entire system, or he dealt with the boys that failed and his system worked?
If you're asking me, my small little humble opinion, if you should be for everybody, why not?
BMG should have 1,000 Duffer Tranks running around the place, hugging every guy.
Well, again,
what I'm saying is that he had tremendous success with people whose system didn't work. If the system worked.
Well, again, what did he allow? He was able to help each bacher to optimize their potential. So why would it not work at a higher level, a lower level? Depending on the learning, why does the learning?
Need it, obviously.
Again, if you're already operating at peak efficiency, okay. But my suspicion is there are plenty of people in the mainstream who are at 10, 20, 30, 40%. But I have seen the tremendous thing. I remember a very big Rav came by and he was showing off the boys. My boys. And one of the Bachrim weren't wearing a hat. Yeah, and the Rosh Hashiva. The person said, this Bacher's not wearing a hat. That's what he focused on. David took off his own hat and threw it in the garbage in front of the boys. What's the message? The hat makes a difference? No.
He was a guy.
He was. I can tell you story after story after story. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you.